I can only imagine that the life that these animals we see in the pictures live is not a life, it's an existence. They are fed, hopefully reasonably well, although one can't even guarantee that sometimes. There's no stimulation of any kind. There's nothing for them to do. So their lives, day in, night out, are going to be lives of total boredom and frustration.
Born Free Foundation has been concerned about the conditions for animals in zoos for over 20 years. And we receive thousands of reports from members of the public who share that concern and who want to see those animals in better conditions. We took that information to the European Commission. The European Commission informed us that if we could provide substantial evidence to support our claims, they would consider addressing the issues. The EU Zoo inquiry is that evidence. We have taken 3 years. We have looked at legislation from over 20 countries of the European Union. We have opened dialogue with the governments of those countries and their enforcement agencies, and we have visited over 200 zoos and made assessments of thousands of individual enclosures.
Animals do form such a large part of a holiday experience for many consumers who are travelling abroad. APTA and our members have been seeing animal welfare raising up the game more and more in terms of customer complaints. And if any customers do see animals being mistreated or not looked after properly in the attractions or excursions that they're taking part in, then we really do hear about it. The public expect very good standards of animals being looked after.
Each individual government of each individual country has to look very carefully at what the zoos are like in their country, and they have to conform to the EU directive to prevent this kind of thing happening.
The EU Zoos Directive is a framework legislation that member states in Europe are required to adopt into their own national legislation. It requires all zoos in the country to be licensed and regularly inspected and to meet specific requirements. So all zoos have to have a commitment to conservation, particularly of threatened species, educate the public about the significance of conservation, and to ensure that the animals in the zoos are kept in conditions that meet their basic and species-specific needs. We found that there was a systemic failure in how the national law that's taken on board the directive is implemented and particularly enforced. There were potentially thousands of animals in hundreds of zoos across the European Union countries that were kept in substandard conditions.
With the zoo inquiry, it's very worrying to hear that some destinations haven't actually implemented the legislation and the regulations regarding animal welfare, hence why we decided to write to some of those destination ministers to ask them to actually re-review what is happening in those countries and understand the impact that not actually addressing this will have on tourism and how consumers do react to this.
I'm truly hopeful. I'm absolutely praying that all the different governments of all the different countries in Europe will look at them and understand that something has to be done. First of all, they have to be given licenses. And would you license this kind of captivity? They have to have people who understand the needs of the individual species that they have in their care. There's so much for them to do, and we will be absolutely behind them trying to help them do it, to make the lives of these animals better.
We are working on developing best practice guidelines, working with experts to improve the situation, and we're, I believe, quite pioneering in terms of an association to actually take this on, recognise that it is such an issue and work with those who are best placed to actually make change, such as the Born Free Foundation.
What is particularly encouraging for the Born Free Foundation and our associated members through the European coalition NCAP is that many member state governments are willing to address the findings of the EU Zoo inquiry and work with us to find the necessary solutions.
We would really like to see the EU member states actually looking at the directive and saying that we want this taken forward, and it's not just about the directive being there, but the key thing is the implementation. If standards for animals are going to actually be improved, implementation is absolutely the key.
What has been discovered, the evidence that has been uncovered, is so strong, it's irrefutable. If you really care about stopping suffering, you wouldn't allow this to go on. And I'm sure the people of each country would agree with that.